You ready to go? All right. Calling to order the meeting of the Meridian Township Planning Commission for Monday, January 22. First item for consideration is the roll call. Commissioner Shrewsbury.
Present.
Commissioner McConnell.
Here.
Commissioner McCurtis.
Here.
Commissioner Scales.
Here.
Commissioner Brooks.
Present.
Commissioner Snyder.
Here.
Gerald Richards is no longer a member of this commission. The chair is here, and temporarily, at least, we have Commissioner Tresize, who will no longer be with us after today. So we have a quorum. Public remarks. We have two members. No? Okay. Then,
Yes.
oh, I'm sorry. You didn't even think about that. Go ahead.
Pete Tresize, 3818 Yosemite Drive, Okemos. Here to thank the board and the staff here. I've had a wonderful time serving on this commission. It does good work and does important work. As you know, I've been appointed to the Board of Trustees, so I have to leave this commission, and I wish you well. I thank you for your accommodations of me, and I've enjoyed working with all of you, and just wanted to say thank you. And I guess I'm not formally resigning because I had to resign, so, but I'm done. So, thank you very much. Good luck. Keep doing the good work.
Best of luck in your position.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Now I'm going to leave.
Have a good night. Drop the mic.
Yeah. All right. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
I move to approve the agenda for tonight.
Second. Motion is seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
There is no opposition. The agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the January 8 meeting. Is there such a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Support.
The minutes.
The minutes. Or I mean, sorry, the minutes.
All right. We can do a roll call on this one too, I believe.
Could I
I'm sorry, go
make
ahead.
a couple of comments on the minutes? They look great. One thing that caught my eye, there were some voice votes that were recorded with the list of names, which I'm familiar with a roll call vote, but less so with a voice vote. Is that how we normally?
I thought we were changing that.
Yeah, that's a copy-paste function.
Okay.
If you want me to just note that it was unanimously approved, I can change that.
I think that's probably what
Okay.
we do.
Okay.
And the other piece was, reading the minutes reminded me that we talked about, at a future meeting, looking at our objectives for the coming year, and that might be on tonight's agenda. I see we have two public hearings, so maybe that's why we put that off till next time.
It
I would
will.
like to see that.
It will come up in February, correct?
Thank you.
All right then. There is a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes from January 8, say aye.
Aye.
There is no opposition. Those minutes are approved. There is item 6. There is no communication unless something has come in since this was printed.
No, sir.
No communication. So we are now on public hearing 7A.
Zoom in on this a little bit. This is special use permit 24001, Meridian Retail Management 2 LLC. This is to construct a restaurant with a drive-through at 2731 Grand River. The special use permit is specifically for the drive-through portion of the restaurant. They've submitted an SUP application for the construction of a 2,560 square foot restaurant, as I said, with the drive-through. The site is the former Bank of America building. They're proposing to tear it down and replace it with the new construction. It's surrounded on 3 sides by the C2 district, which it is similarly zoned. This is Dawn Avenue. It is zoned industrial to the south. The land use itself conforms with both the master plan and the zoning ordinance. There's no issue with that. Sewer and water available. Honestly, the only thing that kind of caught my eye in this review, going through the traffic study, the traffic study that was submitted did take into account the specialty grocery store that is currently under construction adjacent to the west. So I was pleased to see that. The traffic study states that nearby intersection approaches will continue to operate acceptably. This will be reviewed by the Michigan Department of Transportation, as this is Grand River Avenue, during site plan review. But if they accept those findings, traffic is not anticipated to be a problem with this. The Bank of America building did have a drive-through, so, you know, it's similar, although, anyway. There's no natural area here to concern yourself with. This is for lack of a better term, a commercial infill. And as I said, if this is approved, you are the approving body on this special use permit. They will follow up with site plan approval. That is an administrative process. During site plan approval, you get all the usual reviews. As I said, Michigan Department of Transportation, the Drain Commissioner's Office will review and have to approve as well, as will our engineering department. So with that, if you have any questions, I can answer them. The applicant is represented and as well.
Can you tell us what type of restaurant this is? And when I say what type, I don't have to know the name of the restaurant. What I want to know is this a restaurant where people will be driving through for morning coffee and things like that? I'm trying to get a feel for that single lane drive-through. So can you?
I think that's a question for the applicant to answer. I don't know how much detail they're willing to give. I don't have a specific name of a business on the application.
So the only reason, I'm just curious why this would come before us, is it because of the drive-through specifically? That's the
Yeah.
only reason?
Drive-throughs are automatically a special use permit,
Okay, and it doesn't matter.
regardless of the use.
Okay, and it doesn't matter where they are in the township or anything?
Correct.
it's
If
just-
this were just a restaurant, this would be a site plan.
Okay.
You wouldn't see this.
All right.
My concern is kind of piggybacking off what Commissioner Scales talked about. And I know they have a road, you know, I saw the study in here with the road study. But
Sure.
depending on the type of, like with the bank, the traffic isn't as busy as a restaurant that would have like coffee in the morning, fast food, you know, because there's a lot of coming and going. And that particular area with a drive-through it seems like the traffic can be awkward because you also got Whole Foods kind of down the street from there, and then you got the new grocery store that's going next door and all of that, hotel, not so much, but still, so that's the only concern. Did they take that into account, being that it's I guess a single lane drive-through and the type of restaurant that type of traffic could produce?
I can let them speak more specifically, but in general terms, yes, the traffic study did account for a single lane drive-through with a restaurant. That's the land use that was used in their calculations. They did take into account the grocery store, the specialty grocery that's being built next door. They looked at the existing traffic. And note too, there is, I don't think it's going to be their primary ingress egress, but they do also have an entryway on Dawn Avenue. So there is a secondary outlet if people wanted to get out that way.
Okay.
That's not, oh, I'm sorry.
You can go ahead.
That's not how I saw that Dawn Avenue entrance. I saw that as an entrance into the rear, coming around to the east side of the building, and the building being to the west of the drive-through. And I'd like them to walk me through how this drive-through is going to work so I can visualize it.
Sure.
I'm familiar with the site. I've been over to the site. I've looked at this. but I've looked at several drive-throughs before in dealing with this.
So
And I want
here's.
to ask them some questions.
Absolutely, but just so you see where I'm coming from, this is the plan, and they have two directional arrows on here. Coming in from Dawn Avenue, there's a traffic island right here. You would be routed to this lane, not the drive-through lane, but the drive-around lane that
Okay.
would take you around, and then there is an egress right here too. But again, specific questions, happy to let the applicant answer those.
I just had a question for you, Brian. Looking at this made me think about something that had come up, it seems like a long time ago. But talking about traffic on Grand River and all the numerous curb cuts, I'm just wondering if maybe in February, when we have a conversation about what should be kind of on future agendas, if that is something that we could discuss. I'm just very curious if there was like a long-term plan for how to minimize all the curb cuts on Grand River. It's just so dicey. Or just if there's anything going on with MDOT. It's just it's almost treacherous at this point.
We can have that conversation, happy to do that. Do note, though, this is not a new curb cut on Grand River Avenue.
Sure.
They're doing some redesign of that, somewhat redesign, but it is an existing curb cut. But yeah, we'd be happy to have that conversation. You gotta hand.
Brandon, did-
Just real quick, I'm trying to follow, 'cause I'm looking at it from my phone too, the traffic pattern when you talked about the arrows. So is that commercial building, is that Tuffy?
Yes, it is.
So the traffic would go behind the Tuffy building?
Yes, it would. I was out there today, as a matter of fact. Dawn Avenue isn't shown, Dawn Avenue isn't quite on here, but this is where Dawn Avenue is. So their Dawn Avenue entrance would come around there, and then you'd come north onto Grand River from there. But again, I don't think, by any way, shape, or form, is that gonna be their primary,
Sure.
entrance.
So now that you've pushed this down a little bit. no,
Okay.
no,
Oh, sorry.
Leave it right there.
Okay.
So if you were coming from the east, which would be Dawn Avenue, and you're following those arrows, you're perpendicular to the drive-through. Am I correct?
You're parallel to the
Parallel,
drive-through.
I'm sorry.
Correct.
Facing the other
Proper
direction.
term. Parallel to the drive-through. Both are headed towards Grand River, it looks like.
Correct.
How does the person that entered from Dawn Avenue cross over the drive-through lane to get around the entire building and then come back into the drive-through lane?
They would simply drive through the parking lot and come into the drive-through from this direction, like anyone entering off of Grand River Avenue.
Okay.
If you're asking about specific patterns, I can
Yes,
let you talk about
that's what I want to
let you talk
see.
to the engineer.
And it's hard to see it with this picture, and it was very hard to do looking at the small picture we had before us. But I would love to have them talk to us about this.
Any other
Because
questions?
this is the whole issue and the crux of why we're here.
Correct.
Can we have the proponents? Good evening, sir. Would you tell us your name and your address, please?
Good evening, my name is Mitchell Harvey. I'm with Stonefield Engineering. My address is 607 Shelby Street, and that's in Detroit, Michigan. So I'll just briefly go through the site plan real quick and just kind of touch on some of the items that were discussed, and then any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Basically, what we're proposing to do is tear down the existing two-story building and propose a 2,500 square foot restaurant with drive-through. That's why we're here seeking this special land use approval. Access to this site will largely remain the same. So the existing curb cut on Grand is going to be our primary access point. We do have an existing curb cut that goes over onto the adjacent road to the east, and that'll be kind of an auxiliary road that will keep, auxiliary drive that will keep open, but main access will come through Grand River. We have submitted preliminary plans to MDOT. We got some comments back from them basically the comments were bring the radiuses up to MDOT standards. So that's why we're just modifying it slightly, but the location is going to stay the same. We've also submitted a traffic impact study that shows a negligible impact on the surrounding roadway network. Within that traffic impact study was a queuing analysis for this site to show that this user is sufficiently queued for this type of restaurant with drive-through. Just some other site features. We're providing a pedestrian.
Sorry to interrupt. What is, you said queue in?
Queuing, so stacking spaces, the line of people waiting to get to the.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, okay, sorry, I was like.
Yeah,
not
sorry.
sure what that was.
It's termed a queuing analysis
Okay.
in the traffic report. Just a few other site features. We're providing a pedestrian connection to the right-of-way, kind of bringing that sidewalk through our site. Adding a patio as well as some bike parking, kind of up along the frontage there. Lighting will be fully compliant and with downlit LED fixtures. And landscaping, we plan on bringing some new trees to the site, as well as providing a hedgerow across the frontage there. To the reason that we're here is the special land use criteria. So I just want to touch on that really quick. We believe that this plan is in line with the master plan, being this is designated a commercial use or commercial area, and we fall within that criteria. We're served by the existing public utilities that are within Grand River up front. We believe that there's going to be no negative impact on the surrounding area based on the traffic study that we submitted, as well as working with the county on meeting their standards for stormwater. With that being said, we're happy to answer any questions, but we're excited to kind of redevelop the site. Yes, sir.
I'm excited that someone would want to invest in our community with a new restaurant. We like that. Matter of fact, we were just over at the Okemos Culvers on Friday as they were celebrating their 20th anniversary of being a member of our community. So these are wonderful things. And you hit all the hot button items, the LED lights, the bicycle racks, and the trees. You did your homework very well on our community, and we appreciate that. Thank you. In reference to your drive-through, everything I read said it's a one lane, but I'm looking at the west side of the building. Driving south, I see 2 lanes. Am I correct?
Yep.
Where does it, can you scroll up just a little bit?
Yeah, maybe if we could also zoom out a little bit and get a sense of the whole site. Oh, do I have control?
There you go.
You have the power.
Oh, boy. Don't give me the power. All right.
Okay. At what point does it become a one-lane drive-through?
Yes. All right, so you're entering the site here off of the main road. You're coming in, you're heading south.
Okay.
Most oftenly, you'll continue straight down and enter into the drive-through lane here where you have the menu board and our primary stacking lane that kind of wraps around this side of the building. Being that we are on a main road here, we wanted to be sensitive and provide an area of overflow stacking. So what we did is we were able to incorporate another 12-foot wide lane here. This gives us an additional 6 stacking spaces for those peak busy times. We don't anticipate this will be a daily thing, but we wanted to be sensitive to provide that bit of overflow stacking over here on the west side. So that's the reasoning for this lane, but majority of the drive-through traffic would come through here, pick up their order, and exit in this fashion. The cross street over here, the item that was brought up this is currently a 2-way drive aisle, and we will maintain that as a 2-way drive aisle. So if you were to come in through here, you'd come in, you would take a right. So right now you're in the bypass lane. You're not in the drive-through lane itself. So you're not ordering food, you're not getting food. You have to wrap around the building and enter your drive-through lane here in order to hit the order point.
You said exactly what I was looking for.
I'll say no more then.
I was looking for a bypass lane. And when I was reading and it was saying only a one-lane drive-through, it gave me issues.
You don't want to get caught in one.
And that, you sold me on that. People have to have some area where they can change their mind and not block up the entire line and push traffic back out onto Grand River.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Commissioner Shrewsbury.
So there is like a straight line bar a little bit down and to the right of what, on that lane that goes towards Dawn Avenue.
Yep.
A car could come around and cross that and do that whole circle if they wanted to, right? Or are they obstructed right there? Keep your, right there. What
So
is
right here?
that? What is that line? Is that like a crosswalk line?
That's a stop, do not enter. So
Oh.
it really, so if you were facing east and you're stopped here, you have the opportunity to take a left.
Yeah, okay.
Or to go straight. But what we wanted to do is make it clear, if anybody's coming in, you
can't.
can't
Come this way.
swerve over and go across here. So
Perfect.
that's why we have this stop sign and
Okay.
the do not enter sign.
I see. I was not completely clear on that because it was really little on my screen. And then I have just one more question, if I could. Given the business that you anticipate having here, is it possible to estimate how much of its business is likely to be drive-through compared to those that would dine in? Is it a mix of both or 60/40?
It's a mix of both. I don't want to give specific
Oh, no,
numbers,
yeah.
but 60/40, 70/30, that type of thing.
More leaning towards drive-through, you think, or more?
Yeah,
leaning-
primarily would be using drive-through.
Okay. And one of the other drive-through special use permits that we approved a year or two ago was for a business where most of the orders were call in and then you drive through only to pay and pick up. And actually, most of the pay, I think, is yours going to be one where you're ordering at the window, paying at the window, picking up at the window?
Is that a Chipotle, the Chipotle kind of thing?
I think
Yes.
it
Yeah,
was, yes.
I figured that is, because that's their business model. With this, there's not so much ordering within the drive-through, but there is a big portion of their business that is ordering, parking, running in and grabbing your order and leaving, not
Okay.
paying at that point.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
So if I were to put a business there, I'd be like coffee shop. It's like, there's no location that a coffee shop, from that point, it's like a mile in every direction. And so the one concern I have about a drive-through here is like Starbucks, if you go a mile west of here, always has traffic backed up onto that side street. It's not on Grand River, it's on a side street.
Yeah.
And the thing that I worry about this location is Grand River has so much traffic and there cannot be a backup on that road, especially in the morning. So it's just really, like, I don't really care if there's a new business there that goes in that has a drive-through, but what really concerns me is a potential traffic backup. And I guess my question from all of this pontificating is, has there been any consideration to doing the drive-through on the side street rather than having like the main entrance be on the side street rather than off of Grand River, so that there is no sort of potential for that scenario to happen?
We looked into it, and what it would create is a difficulty for customers to get to the drive-through and utilize the site, and it's going to create a lot of situations where you have people slowing down on Grand River. How do I get to the drive-through? We want to design it in a manner that's fairly intuitive for someone entering the site, but we were definitely sensitive of, we do not want to stack up in the main road, because that could potentially be an issue. So that's largely the reason why we put in this overflow lane. That was, something we were sensitive to initially with our discussions with the planning department, and that's kind of why we arrived at this design.
So if there's an overlane, so maybe I don't understand this. So if there's two lanes, if both the overflow lane and the regular lane are full, then does that prevent anyone from coming all the way around and getting out?
No, you can still circulate the site. If the overflow lane and the drive-through lane are full, we wanted to make sure you have full circulation around the site.
Okay.
That's why this is two-way, this is two-way, and then this is essentially our bypass lane, and this is also our bypass lane.
Okay. And so in this, I'm sorry if I'm dense. So on the western side of this, so I can see where the concrete curb on the north part sort of like comes in, and then that's where the direction, you can go all the way around. That's what I thought was the overflow lane.
That is the overflow lane.
Okay, so then technically, so are there two lane?
So, yeah, so this right here is the overflow lane here. I'm sorry, there's so many black
It's
dots
okay.
line.
I'm sure
One's a setback, one's an easement.
Yeah.
And one of them's trying to dictate how many stacking spaces there are. But this black line here represents what would be our overflow lane. This isn't anticipated to be used all the time. This is to be
Sure.
used when necessary, so we're not stacking within our site. So, this would be signed saying, hey, overflow stacking here, and that would maintain this two-way drive aisle to be open. So if, someone was coming in and wanted to park here, they could park here, go in, and then exit this way, or if they wanted to back out and go that way, they could do that type of movement.
Okay, so then if you scroll down towards the bottom, so then, okay, so if there were people though in the overflow lane and the regular drive-through lane,
You'd have to cut in between them.
it looks like so there's two cars coming this way and then somebody can go this way, but then if somebody wants to come around and go that way, they can't go that way.
I'm not sure I understand, but
Can I try?
You can.
If I'm understanding the drawing correctly, if the normal drive-through and the overflow drive-through are full, somebody who came off of Grand River and decided that there was too many stacked cars and wanted to just leave would need to cut through those two lines waiting for the drive-through at the bottom of the parking lot.
yes, but there wouldn't be cars stacked in here. This would be properly signage to, hey, do not block the lane kind of thing.
All right.
But if you were to come in and you came in and you said, all right, well, the drive-through lane's backed up, I'm gonna run in. You can park here, and then you go in, grab whatever you gotta grab, and then you back out and exit the same way you came in, which is, 70% of traffic movements, people enter the exact same way they came in. So that's why we kind of designed it in that manner.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't realize that particular line was a two-way line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, and I just have visions of the Starbucks just a mile west of here and how people are, it's a nightmare scenario. That's just what I have visions of. But I appreciate you answering my questions.
You had a question.
Oh, yeah, just real quick. Looking at the different lanes, especially coming off of Dawn Avenue and, having those lanes there and then having the lane coming up Grand River going wrapping around. It looks like it takes, from the existing site, it takes a lot of parking. It eliminates parking spaces. Is that?
on which side of this is
I'm looking
the,
at the.
this is the existing site kind of showing the parking spaces. Is there,
Okay, so the parking spaces still remain.
Building's narrower.
yeah, so these angled spaces,
Those are parking spaces still.
these are parking spaces, and I'm really not sure how functional they were for the original design because your drive-through circulation would go in the counterclockwise direction, right?
You'd have to back in.
Yeah, so you'd have to back into those angled spaces, so I don't know really what the design was for there, or maybe people entering, like employees would park there, but yeah, we'd be removing these spaces and that would give us the drive-through lane, or the bypass lane, but essentially we're taking those spaces and moving those over on the west side of our site to provide spaces near the front entrance of the business.
That's what I was gonna ask, if that was gonna be adequate amount of parking spaces, in regards to, because those spaces currently there would be eliminated.
Yeah, I think we're proposing 22 where 21 is required by code.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McConnell, did you have a question?
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to pick up where Commissioner Brooks got started. Certainly, the situation with the one coffee shop farther down Grand River is concerning. That only exits onto Grand River. The entrance is off the side street, and that's where the congestion, I think, is most noticeable. But it's really unfortunate to have that amount of traffic. Commissioner Brooks asked a question, if you only had access from Don Ave, was that in any way feasible? And it sounded like you had kind of looked at that, but decided it wasn't going to be workable. Was that given the layout that we're looking at here, or all possible layouts on the site?
Yeah, so, if you just think about if you're heading eastbound down East Grand and you see a business there, you would have to know from experience to drive down to Dawn Ave, take a right, come in and circulate the whole site. So I think ultimately, from an access management standpoint, that'd be very confusing and non-intuitive to someone that is visiting this establishment for the first time. We also, just from a business standpoint, you want to have people, make it easy for people to get to your site so they're not, saying, all right, well, this was kind of a pain to get to. I'm going to go a half mile down the road to this next business kind of thing. So that's really why we need that East Grand River Avenue entrance. And it was one of the things we identified early in the process. So that's why we got it in NDOT's hands early, to make sure they didn't have an issue with what we were proposing.
Can I ask a follow-up? This one's silly. Senior planner Short referred to this as infill, which it kind of is because of the site's kind of vacant. I was going to go with refill.
Okay,
That's a good term.
I will introduce that to the Michigan Association.
And since it's already got a drive-through, right? Couldn't put a kitchen in the bank and a little seating, was there ever any consideration to using the existing framework, or was it?
I really don't think there was a lot of that, just because it's a two-story building. The drive-through lane is on the west side, so we wanted to provide that full stacking around the site, so we have plenty of stacking spaces. I would hate to be the architect that has to design turn that bank into a drive-through restaurant, but.
Hey, the McDonald's is 2 stories up there on
Yeah, it is.
right? Rooftop seating.
I went to MSU and I spent a lot of time in that McDonald's.
I'm just saying, just a couple panels, take them off.
It was a quick walk across from Gunson Street, I think I was on.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about looking at the west side of, I guess, the property. I see, fencing, curbs, walls. Is there going to be any plan for connectivity between this establishment and the next door Trader Joe's?
No, so actually what you see there, that wall is actually a retaining wall. There's a fairly significant grade change between
Okay.
our site and their site, so that's why that cross connectivity wasn't ever really explored, because it wasn't quite feasible with the grades.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
We had one, and now I'm blanking on who it was.
I have one
You're
more.
welcome to my.
Let him ask, and I'll keep thinking.
What's the,
Oh, I know what it was.
I can't remember from the documents, but so what's the impact on like people turning left out of this facility?
Yeah, so I was speaking with the traffic engineer, Fleece and Vanderbrink, Jacob Swanson this morning. And essentially what I asked him is, how does the traffic work out here? And that light actually creates, it's just upstream to the west
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah.
That actually creates that break in traffic that you need for that left turn out. And there is a left turn lane in the middle of the road here. So they analyzed it, they looked at it, and it's primarily because of that light, there's that break of traffic, so they can make that movement.
But so were you thinking that it was a good thing that people were going to be turning left and then getting into the middle turn lane immediately?
No, I was saying that's how the left turn would function, that's how that opening is created. If there wasn't a light there, you'd have continuous traffic through the whole, everybody heading eastbound, correct?
Yeah.
That light actually creates that stop in traffic, so there's that opportunity for the left out, and I think that's largely why MDOT approved the reuse of this existing drive.
That left turn problem is true of every business on the south side
Yeah,
of the road.
yeah, no, I know. But I'm thinking about it in the context of like, there's going to be Whole Foods, another specialty grocery, then this, and they're all going to be like right.
But I'm sorry, that's kind of the point that I was making, how it's really awkward in that area because of the Whole Foods, Trader Joe's is gonna go there, and, hotels and Clarion, whatever, but still, it's just but I understand your point where there's a break in the action traveling east with that stoplight there that allows for a driver to turn left. I get that as well. But it can create an awkward.
Yeah. And I say all this and ask all these questions, and I'm excited to see that building
Put to good use.
refilled. Yeah.
Refill,
Did you remember what you wanted to ask?
I do.
recycled.
This is probably a question for staff, but this is technically a public hearing that we're having tonight, and I don't
Correct.
see any public here to speak to this, I don't believe. So I'm just curious, when you do your notice, were there any actual residential people that fit within that boundary that required notification, or is it all commercial property owners?
I don't know. I generate a map and a list of addresses. I could
Okay.
get that information for you, but
No, I just curious.
everyone within 300 feet gets noticed and it
Okay,
gets published
so-
in the paper.
Probably not many, and I just, that may mean that there's not anybody directly impacted by this personally. But be curious to hear if,
The whole zone is commercial, so you have to.
Yeah, and then there's some
really-
industrial to the south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? No? Do we want to take a straw vote to give guidance to staff? Why don't we do that?
Sure.
All right, this chair then proposes a motion to give support to the presentation, and we'll have ask staff to prepare a final order.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed?
If there was something about the application we would hope were different when it came back to us, would be the time to speak to that?
Yeah, this is your
Yeah.
public hearing.
Yeah. So,
Wait, point of information. Why don't we close the hearing first?
oh, I see, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can have commissioner
You're
discussion.
right. So thank you, sir. At this point, we're just going to discuss it among ourselves.
All right, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Go ahead.
I'm also happy to see refilled, reused, renovated businesses. Empty businesses are not what we need. And it would be great if we could reuse buildings instead of knocking them down, but that's a long shot. I love the patio outdoor seating. They even put a bike rack in. Yeah, they did their homework on us. They understand us. As I review the application, I'm very strongly reminded of this commission considering an application to replace the old Paul Revere restaurant with a drive-through car wash. And when that application left the planning commission, it did not have any more curb cuts on Grand River Avenue. And it was a lot of gymnastics to fit a car wash into a site like that. And when it got to the zoning board of appeals, it got a variance, and there is an entrance off of Grand River now for that drive-through car wash. And as far as I can tell, nobody is accessing that site off of Dawn Avenue. Well, you could, but it's already crazy enough to get there off of Grand River. So I guess I'm feeling, and I feel like a lot of our comments are about how it feels a little bit like this project, while it's great, feels a little bit shoehorned into this site. And that concerns. My preference would be for a business that was attractive enough that people would make the turn on to Dawn Ave. But that's how I'm feeling at this point.
Any other comments?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make some comments. My issue from the beginning was to focus on why we're here. This is before us to deal with the driveway. And I have served on this planning commission 10 years ago when we moved a whole building to deal with their establishment of a drive-through. The gas station up on, Hagedorn, and the Marathon up on Lake Lansing Road.
In Hagedorn?
When they put a drive-in through there, next to near the Buddies over there. We had them move that building because there was not enough room to get around. They demonstrated to me right here today that they thought that through. And I am very much convinced that whatever this business is, that the drive-through will work here, especially because we have an egress on Grand River and Dawn Avenue. Think about fire trucks trying to get through a blaze over there and only one way in and one way out. Think about that. Put that in your mind. Now, that would be a disastrous situation, and something would burn. The presenter spoke about the traffic light to the west. That was a very important point because that traffic light breaks up that left-hand turn. Think if you go west of the traffic light, think of trying to get out of IHOP or one of the businesses on that south side of the road of Grand River and trying to turn left from there where there is no light except for all the way down to Hagedorn to break up traffic. It's disastrous over there. We even had to put a crosswalk in the middle of Grand River with a halfway point for people to stop when they're trying to walk across the street. So I think this is well constructed. I think it was well thought out. And I like the fact that they did their homework on the community and hit all our hot buttons too, not to mention. But I think this was well thought out, and I think this will work in this location.
Thank you. I think I'd like to make a couple of observations. Number one, it's obviously a well-designed project. The gentleman went to Michigan State University. What do you expect? This is the primary economic corridor for the entire community. And it doesn't bother me that this may generate a slight amount of additional traffic. That's what it's there for. That's what that corridor is there for. If this were being placed in the middle of a residential area, there might be vastly different considerations to go through. But right now, we're talking about replacing a dead building with an active business in the primary business corridor of the entire community. I don't see a problem with that. I agree with Commissioner Scales that I'm satisfied that the micro traffic jam situation around the building itself has been accounted for by proper planning. And I welcome the development. I don't see that it's going to conflict in any way. I was interested in Christina's question about whether there was going to be transportation communication between this and the new grocery store. It didn't occur to me that there was a wall there and you couldn't do that. That would have been an interesting development, but I don't see any problems by the proposal that we have before us, and I am ready to support it.
Can I nitpick just a little tiny bit more, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
In this picture that we have on the display, you can see the sidewalk running on the south side of East Grand River. And you can see where it meets North Wind at the new Trader Joe's. I use that sidewalk on a daily basis. And current vacant lot, there's right turn traffic that fills the void created by that stoplight. As that site becomes more and more busy, more and more of the traffic leaving that specialty grocery store, we're making that right on red, diminishing, right? That break, both for the ingress and the egress from this site. And the entrance is shortly after the intersection, so that most of those folks should be in that right-hand curb lane. So I'm not as swayed by the argument that the traffic signal solves potential conflicts and stacking on East Grand River Avenue.
If I may, though, the only answer to what you're proposing is to put a park in there instead of a business.
No, I'm saying that if that business was accessed through Don Avenue, we wouldn't have any conflict with Grand River because people would be making a turn that exists already on a side street rather than a curb cut. And that would be my preferred version, to have fewer curb cuts, fewer conflicts between pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists. That would be my preference. Banks. On the other side of North Wind Drive, where that parking lot is in front of Hobby Lobby, is no longer a parking lot. That's now a bank, drive-through bank. We've had 10 drive-through banks proposed since I've been on this planning commission. I don't understand I don't understand the demand for banks, but now we got an empty building and we're gonna knock it down and build a new one. I don't know. It's just, I wish it were different. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I can see both sides of this argument. I don't think we actually know. I mean, we can do traffic studies and there can be proposals and this is what's going to happen, but we don't really know what's going to happen with the traffic patterns here. And I am curious what it would be like if we asked for the entrance and exit to be off of Dawn Avenue. And I don't think that it would be that onerous on facility users because we're Americans and we drive everywhere and we somehow find out where we're going frequently. And there's plenty of malls and other restaurant areas where you have to turn into a facility's giant area and then you have to take another side street to get to the actual place that you're trying to go. So I just don't see that as a valid concern. And it's just going to be it's right there next to that. That's the only light right there. So it's going to be, that entrance and exit is going to be right there next to the light for the two major groceries. And I just feel like that's, could be ameliorated by having the entrance at Dawn Avenue. So I guess I did a straw poll and I said I would go with this, but now that I'm reflecting on it and hearing some other conversation about it, I think I would probably rather see an alternative proposal related to that.
With all due respect to my colleagues, I don't see the issue. The road cuts are already there. As was explained to us, the only thing they're doing with the road cuts is changing the radius to comply with traffic requirement, with highway commission requirements. I understand his position that if you pushed the entrance over to Dawn, you would thoroughly confuse drivers coming at the business from the west. You might not confuse them coming from the east, but you would certainly confuse them coming from the west. They'd be looking for the entrance to the place, they wouldn't find it.
But I think people would adapt to it.
I think a certain amount of traffic congestion is built into the fact that this is the primary economic corridor of the area. You simply can't get away from that. A certain amount of traffic congestion is a fact of life in a mobile society like we have. When we all get to the point where we can, walk to whatever we want to do, that's a different situation, but that's not what we've got here. This is a business that is proposed to take over an existing commercial slot, and I can't believe that it would add significant traffic to what was already there before when the bank was active. Maybe a little bit, but not a significant amount. Yeah, Commissioner Scales.
And if you go further east on Grand River, and you look at the businesses east of Okemos Road, they all empty out onto Grand River. Each and every one of them, and they're right by a light that's to the west of them. Everything on the north side of Grand River empties out into Grand River east of Okemos, and that's not a problem. And you have the mall there, you have, on the south side, you have Myers there, on the north side, you have McDonald's, you have a tire store, you have Best Buy, you have Taco Bell, all of them all aligned together, and they all enter from Grand River, and it's not a problem. Why would this be a problem over here?
If I may, go ahead.
I would just disagree with the statement that it's not a problem. I think this harkens back to my original question earlier about what is the plan for Grand River? Because, when we have just special use permits come before us and other presentations, for example, we know that one of the things that's baked in is that whatever's being developed, they have to have a pedestrian sidewalk. So what are we doing about the development of Grand River to make it safer for people? And that includes motorists, pedestrians, cyclists. There are other communities that are doing this better. I don't know if this is on, Meridian Township or if this is MDOT. I don't know who the overseeing authority is, but I feel that it is a problem. All these businesses emptying out onto one vein, it's very congested, it's very dangerous. I frequently find myself in a position on Grand River that is west of this business, where you were talking about, and it's between the two lights, the one on Hagedorn and Northwind. And I'm always so glad that I don't have to turn left. It's hard enough to turn right because there's a lot of foot traffic too. It's not that far from campus. And now that we also have the pathway coming through here, that's increasing, the number of pedestrians. So this is a problem to me, this traffic issue. I see the flip side too. Like, I'm excited to bring another business to our community, a restaurant, a drive-through. It all sounds amazing, but I don't think we can overlook the problem that Grand River is becoming.
Yeah, there certainly are, it is a main lifeblood of the community, the corridor, as you said. And almost all of the businesses located along that corridor are accessed on and off of Grand River. Very few are accessed by their own driveway on Grand River. And I believe that this commission's policy going forward has been to try to reduce the number of curb cuts whenever possible and create shared access drives. Unfortunately, during the reconstruction of M43, one of the businesses along the north side between Okemos Road and the mall is not currently constructed to accommodate a shared drive lane, but all the others are. And I think many of us hope that when that business is reconfigures, that we'll be able to get shared access for all of those businesses. The Bunt Cakes and the Smoke Shop, and they share parking lots and access. So that I hope is our position going forward. I would also mention, I saw in our next public hearing discussion of access management criteria that the township had developed. So maybe, I don't know, do we want to get into that now or wait until?
I shall discuss the next application during the next public hearing.
All right.
Okay.
Before we leave this topic, I'd just like to make one observation. Several people seem to be leaning in favor of requiring Dawn Avenue as an access, the principal access to this site. What difference is that going to make if somebody wants to get out on Dawn Avenue and still go west on Grand River? You still have to go up on, you got to go 250 yards north on Dawn Avenue and then make a left turn on Grand River. It doesn't change anything except that you've moved maybe 100 yards to the east before you make that turn. I don't know that that's going to make any functional difference in the traffic pattern.
I think that's potentially quite a bit of room when you look at where the entrance and exit is right now compared to where it would be in relation to the Northwood or Northwind light.
Go ahead.
Listen, Dallas, I guess I agree with Commissioner Snyder that traffic on Grand River is a problem. And I know that we sometimes chip away incrementally. We say, okay, this one's fine, but overall it's a big. But I do feel as if, I don't know what the precedent is and what MDOT's policy is on closing curb cuts on major streets. I would be very concerned if this applicant were willing to make a change like that, which looks like it would require a total redesign of their site to move the access down just a little bit, which I agree it might make it easier, but it would create its own problems in other directions too. So I'm not sure that's the solution, but it would then condense a whole lot of traffic onto a street that really wasn't designed for that and into that narrower place behind the other business that concerns me. But then let's say this business moves and another business comes along that isn't a drive-through and that does require a different level of access and traffic, and then we've lost the ability for that business, you're changing the dynamics of a piece of property in an incremental way that I'm not sure I support. I share the concerns about Grand River traffic and pedestrian safety and car safety, and I would probably be one that would drive all the way around the building after I was done, and then turn right, and, just because I don't like turning left into busy streets. But that's my choice, and I think that I like the idea of having two entrances and exits from this property, just so that it does alleviate some of the traffic. Those who choose to go onto Dawn Avenue to get in and out, because that's their preference, will do that. Others will go on Grand River, and so I'm pretty comfortable supporting having a drive-through in the way that they've proposed it and it's designed.
Clear enough guidance for staff?
Yeah,
Do you have what you need?
yeah.
Any other comments from any of the commissioners? All right, then we'll close this issue. We'll wait to see what staff comes up with for the next hearing on this.
See you in a couple weeks.
All right, we are now on item 7B, 1614 West Grand River, also a special use permit.
Would you just give me a moment to
Sure.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. While I'm doing this, we talked on the phone at least weekly for 2 months. That's the first time we met face to face. Let's see here. Here we go.
Just a question among other commission members. Does anyone here know how to read a traffic study?
How to what?
How to read a traffic study and understand what it says?
Is the camera on? Yes.
I can, but I won't.
I look at those and I think, what language are these written in? My God.
The easiest thing to do is go to the executive summary.
Yeah.
To cut down, I did take all the appendices out with all of the raw data. That is pretty confusing stuff if you don't know what you're doing. And I spent 2.5 years as a transportation planner. I don't like reading that stuff. If anyone does want to see that, I do have that available, but I didn't think that needed, just cut down on an already large packet. I took
Yeah.
that stuff out of these two studies.
I was glad that you shared it with us, and it was nice to see that it was really current.
Thank you. This is special use permit number 24002, W Investment Holdings. If that sounds familiar, you did a special use permit on this site in 2023, number 23012, for a medical marijuana facility. I want to be clear, this is not that. There are 3 buildings proposed on this site. This is not that building. This is behind that building. This special permit will require 2 approvals. This is an application for a climate-controlled self-storage facility. That is a special use permit in the C2 district, which this is. That is your call. However, this is proposed to be 3 stories tall, 127,500 square feet, and consists of 977 units. By our ordinance, anything over 25,000 square feet in size requires another special use permit, and that will be recommended by, approval or disapproval will be recommended to you, by you, and then go to the board for their final approval. So this is a two-step process. As I noted, the entire site is basically 3 parcels. This isn't a great look here, but let me zoom in a little bit closer. They've got, it kind of wraps around, they're not putting anything fronting on it, but the property does come out here on Central Park Drive. The back part of the property is where this is being affected. At some point, they'll have to do, they'll have to do a survey and show amended property lines. We've had that discussion. The zoning, the master plan stuff, that's pretty straightforward. It's zone C2, it's commercial master plan, no problem. One note about this, it will, during site plan review, they know this already, they will require a 50-foot variance for the residential setback. This is the you'll recall the Grand Reserve special use permit that you approved last year or the year before, recently. There is a 200-foot setback for commercial structures away from that residential district. Their building is proposed to be 150 feet. They know that's a problem. They know that's an issue. They know that's something they've got to take care of. We discussed that during pre-application meetings, and it is noted. Water and sewer are here in the site. That's not a problem. Traffic, because we haven't talked about that enough. The traffic study submitted for this was a reevaluation of the traffic study that was submitted with the original marijuana SUP that you had looked at last year. The traffic study was updated to incorporate the additional traffic from a storage facility of this. I did check and make sure they're using the right category in the traffic, in our traffic code, the 3-volume traffic code. So they counted for this traffic in addition to that traffic. Again, during site plan review, if this goes forward, that will be reviewed and need to be approved by Michigan Department of Transportation. The study indicated that the existing roads are capable of handling expected traffic. They did suggest there's going to be some optimization of traffic signal timing that's going to be necessary. But they also noted that they're moving the entrance, they're going to require a waiver from MDOT for the spacing between adjacent driveways. There's just a spacing requirement. And without getting too specific, if wherever that was going to end up, there was going to be a waiver. They're just the large, and I can let them talk to you more specific about that. But no site plan will get approved without said waiver from Michigan Department of Transportation. We did know that there was a wetland on property. In case you've gone out there and looked at this, they know there's a wetland on the property and they've taken care of that. No, the setbacks are noted on their plan. They're way out of the setbacks. Wetlands are not an issue on this. And as I said, if you approve the climate controlled storage facility as presented, it will go forward to the board to approve the size of the facility. That will be followed by site plan review, which is an administrative process. I can answer questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Joe?
No,
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry. Any questions from the commission?
While you're thinking, let me bring the plan up.
You also have
I got several.
words though.
Here's the easy one. In the staff report,
we
item
go.
5, you mentioned there's 2 wetlands located on subject property, both of them.
Yeah, they're north of the location.
Just noting that in the natural features assessment that I think also was dated from a prior application, there was mention of wetland disturbance that was meant to take place, but I take it that would happen during the development of the other portions of this site, not what's currently proposed. There's something about a driveway that there was going to be a minor bit of fill.
I would have to go back and see. I don't want to speak just on memory of that. I'm reminded of something.
I think the firm was Nowak and Fraus did the
But-
natural features assessment.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
sounds like it was broader than this piece.
I'd have to go look, but so you noted different section. This is the marijuana facility, again, which is not part of this review. This is Grand River Avenue over here. North is it's oriented 90 degrees, so north is this direction. Grand River is right here. This is the proposed entrance onto the site. It would serve, in the long run, it would serve 3 buildings. This will have to come back for its own approval. That is shown just in concept only at this point. This is the structure that you're reviewing today. And then the wetlands are back here off the site. They were the same ones that had to be observed with setbacks on the southwest side of the Grand Reserve.
And there's a small one at the bottom right of the site.
Yeah.
So if I could ask you to elaborate on the reconfiguration of the access. You're talking about would potentially require a waiver from MDOT, and given the spacing that's proposed. Is that what is meant by access management criteria in the staff report?
Correct. What it says is, sorry, get to the. In accordance with MDOT, the township has developed access management criteria and evaluating proposed access driveways across Grand River Avenue. Access management criteria for the proposed driveway, I'm quoting from the traffic study there. Driveway are summarized in the study by the applicant's traffic consultant. Based on that study, the consultant noted that waivers are required for the spacing between adjacent driveways. So this is the existing, maybe you can see it better if I actually.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you
Are there any other buildings even close to the size of this?
I mean, the Sparrow Medical Building, but I don't think it's
Yeah,
anywhere.
I'm looking at it.
Here.
Yeah, this is Sparrow.
Yeah,
So,
I don't think it even comes close.
I don't think so.
Okay. So you can see here, here's Sparrow Labs, here's this pond back here, Bank of America, this commercial here. There's an access right here that used to go back to a house that was demolished, according to what I understand, 2019, it's been a while. They want to close this and bring the entrance over here and access the site from this direction. So back here in this area is where you're talking about the storage facility.
Okay. And just north of that, all of that, north of that is going to be developed as residential.
Yes, this is under site plan review, actually trying to wrap some engineering stuff. I don't want to speak specifics, but this is under site plan review right now as Grand Reserve, 155 residential units.
And it
I think,
goes all the
something
way,
like that, in that neighborhood.
and it goes all the way down to the pond, basically?
Yeah, I'd have to look. doesn't come all the way down here because there are wetland issues down on the south side, but the residential zoning is here, and that's what triggered the setback, not the location of the specific buildings. If I had access to our drive, I'd bring the site plan up and show you. I don't have that quick.
So just real quick, I know this, the question relates to it though, but so if there's going to be housing back here, how would that be accessed, through Powell Road or?
The access is Powell Road and Central Park Drive. That's already been approved.
And the only access for this storage facility is Grand River?
Grand River Avenue, that's correct.
Okay,
They are not going to connect.
that's what I was getting. Okay, thanks.
So, oh, sorry. The variance that would eventually be needed for the setback, is that from the property line of that new development, or would that be from the closest residence?
From the property line. They have right here 150 feet of space. This is zoned residentially. This is zoned residentially, and it's not from the building, it's from that property line.
Does the developer who owns the housing development, do they get notified of
Oh, absolutely, of course they do.
of this?
Sure.
So like they can come to like this special hearing or? what?
Sure they could. Everybody within 300 feet of this location got noticed.
Okay.
It's safe to assume that a 3-story building, our fire trucks can reach the top.
Yeah, our ordinance doesn't list a story maximum, it lists a height maximum for 35 feet in the commercial district, and yes.
I'm struggling a little bit with the elevation pictures. It's not clear to me if that's like a solid building or if it's chunks and open space between them. I think it's the picture right below where you are now.
Yeah.
Like
This is
complete,
the elevation drawing for the storage facility.
and so
And,
those, the
yeah,
rectangles with the little thing inside, that's actual building wall, right? That's
Yes.
not a- Okay.
Yes.
So-
I can let the applicant speak more specifically to that, but this is one building.
I would be really interested in knowing if there's a similar building that's been built somewhere else that we could look at an actual, this is just hard for me to envision. And 3 stories is a little bit taller than we're used to here in Meridian Township for most big commercial building, like on Hagedorn Road, there's some, but in general, we don't go that high. And I'm just trying to picture what it would look like sort of out in the space that's currently not occupied by anything. It'd be great if the applicant.
If you want to see no, it's not, I'd have to look into it.
Okay.
I can't off the top of my head think of a 3-story storage facility.
Yeah, I know there's like the tall one out on the south side of Lansing
That's what
that
I'm
used to be a
saying.
hotel.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
like, I'm just trying to picture it and having a hard time.
The residential construction has already been approved, right?
The special use permit for the residential construction has been approved. They are in site plan review.
Okay. I'm concerned that this building is going to be absolutely inconsistent with a residential neighborhood 100 yards to the north. It's going to overwhelm the neighborhood.
I see trees, but. All right.
How tall is the building actually?
35 feet, right? Yeah, 35 feet. I can show you here, zoom in. Yeah, right here.
Many of
38
the
feet.
trees.
Well, they're showing 38, it's 33 to the roof deck, 38 to the top of the parapet.
Visually, it's 38 feet.
It's visually, it's 38 feet. I think we have an allowance for the I'd have to look and see. If it's too tall, we'll, you know, we'll get it during site plan.
Our trees are much,
It will be limited to 35 feet in height, yes.
our trees are much taller than that.
Some of them.
Because I'm thinking,
So I'm just curious, in our ordinance, I guess, I don't know if anyone can actually speak to this, but it just kind of is a question I'm really wanting to know. Given that we're here to discuss, you know, whether or not a special use permit should be granted for a storage facility, I'm wondering why, like, in the ordinance, why isn't that an already automatic allowed use? Why is that something that we put into a separate category to require additional input?
I would have to go back and research the history of
Sure.
C2
That's why I said, I
district.
didn't know if
mean,
anyone could really speak to that, but I'm very curious. There must have been a reason somebody thought, maybe this isn't something we should just allow.
To be fair, there are several special use permit, special land uses in the C2 district. It's not like, it's not
I know.
unique. But
I just
I
wonder
get
about
I get
this.
your point, yes.
Can we hear from the applicants?
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Really appreciate your time tonight. My name is Amar Al-Kafaji. I am the applicant, the developer. I'm here with my business partner, Stephen Bacall, as well. My address is 29580 Northwestern Highway in Southfield, Michigan. And let's go Lions. We're really excited about Sunday and crossing our fingers that everything goes well in San Francisco. Going back to this, I appreciate your time, as I said, and many great points were brought up, and I'd like to clarify and go through step by step our thought process on this. So we recently purchased this entire site. We closed on it about a little over a year ago. Got our special use permit application previously for the medical marijuana facility. And now we're moving forward with that, as well as trying to get a self-storage facility, climate-controlled self-storage facility built on this site. The total site is about 8.5 acres. It's separated into 3 different parcels. Let's start off with the main access. So this main access curb cut was something we discussed with the Road Commission, MDOT, as well as Meridian Township planners. This was suggested to us by MDOT to move the drive there and eliminate those residential curb cuts. This was done when we started the plan for the medical marijuana facility. The goal is, as previously discussed in the last application, is to have that interconnected drive throughout a lot of it so that there's cross-access between a lot of the properties. As you can see here, this would allow a separate drive, like an access drive, that would actually connect to the shopping center next door and possibly to the medical building to create that shared access drive. Putting the curb cut closer toward Central Parkway would then cause a lot of issues with traffic with the other road that kind of curves in. And that is why all the curb cuts have been eliminated to just have one curb cut off of Grand River over there and provide that access. In terms of having a curb cut off of Central Parkway, that will happen eventually. We just need to figure out what will be, how the development would work throughout there's wetlands on that parcel, and we do not want to touch the wetlands there. So at this point, we wanted to propose it off of Grand River, and eventually, once we figure out what's gonna happen on the rest of the site, we would have another access eventually off of Central Park Drive, but we are not proposing that at this time. We'd like to just focus on the 2 parcels for right now, but that is the main goal there. In terms of the self-storage facility, and please correct me if I'm incorrect on this, it requires a 200-foot setback from residential. However, many of the other commercial uses, such as a gym or other uses, would only require a 100-foot setback. We tried as much as we can. We first came in front of planner Shorkey with a site plan that would have needed a 150-foot variance, which would put us at something that would be similar to what we would need for a gym. we really pushed it as far back as we possibly could to really get the setback, give that distance. We put the retention pond in between to give it a nice natural feature. And with a lot of that mature vegetation behind, we really don't anticipate any issues of it impacting the residential development behind us. And in terms of the self-storage facility, it is a 3-story building. We abided by all the requirements in the ordinance. If you take a look at the design of the building, I know it looks a little confusing in terms of the rendering, in terms of these white boxes. The architect we hired is an architect that specializes in self-storage facilities. They do self-storage facilities all across the country, and this is the typical prototype for a self-storage facility that you would see, such as a Beyond Self-Storage, a Public Storage, those types of big brands that have, so we wanted to follow that. We did an economic feasibility study on it, and it came back extremely well for this area, that there's a desperate need of self-storage and storage units in Meridian Township. We're not proposing any outdoor storage. There's no outdoor storage for cars, parking. Everything is indoor. It is all climate controlled. And part of the ordinance calls for no storage units to be shown on the exterior, from the, like, no interior storage units can be seen from the road. That is why you see here big walls. I mean, we would prefer to have windows there and have, to show the units. That's usually how a storage building is. But per the ordinance, we're not allowed to do that. That is why you see masonry and other materials being used here. The architect was trying to emulate the look of a window with other materials where you're not going to be seeing into the storage unit to see the actual garages per se. The traffic study we did show that there wouldn't be significant impact with the self-storage facility on this area. The building, yes, it's 120,000 square feet. However, 97,000 of that is what's actually usable. The rest is all corridors, elevators, the office. And, we're happy to share the feasibility study with the members if they'd like to see it as well, showing the need of storage and how ours doesn't even complete the need for this area in terms of storage needed. This is a high commercial zone area that's, the Grand River corridor, and we thought it would be a great fit. We didn't want to come in and present it without giving you an idea of what we're thinking in the front of the property for the last piece on Grand River. And that's why we have a retail center there with a drive-through, possibly. We would come back and follow all protocol and all required steps to get that approved. And we just wanted to show something there prior to us moving through those steps. There's also a drain easement that goes through our property that's not impacted by the storage building, but it would be impacted a little bit on that retail portion. That is why we're not proposing that today. We're working with the Ingham County Drain Commission right now. We actually have a meeting with them tomorrow to discuss that. But we wanted to move forward to get this storage project hopefully through and start construction this year on it, as well as the medical marijuana provisioning center, which is moving forward. I really appreciate your time, and I hope I answered some of your questions, and I'm here to answer any more.
Any questions?
I'm really curious. I appreciate the detail on the market study.
Yes.
How can you tell me what direction the arrow points? Do you look down a list of things that seem like they might be and then study them? Or can you get an analysis that says, well, you could do these 6 things on this site, there's a lot of demand? I'm surprised at a self-storage facility that it popped up. I mean,
Yes.
I don't doubt there's demand. I'm just curious how you come to.
So in taking a look at, when looking at this site, the main thing is what is in this community that is something that is, needed, that is not available, and what is allowed in our current zoning that is a potential use. And self-storage is something that has really been a big thing that is hard to find areas to place it, because you still need it in retail corridors, and it's hard to find land to build these facilities, especially with the way technology is going and other things. People want to be able to have space to store their things and be mobile, be able to go and, people are moving into smaller spaces and a lot of times in terms of multifamily and other residential areas and putting their stuff away, especially in Michigan. A lot of people don't realize, your winter furniture, your patio furniture, other things, there's so many different uses for storage. And this area specifically has not seen that proposed. There are a lot of, apartment buildings being proposed all over. When people move into those buildings, they have things they need to store at times. And this would give them an outlet to do that on a commercial corridor. And that's why, we went down that road. This is not our first one, and we're very excited. We think the feasibility study was extremely well for the area. And, we're excited to do this, and we think it has a great synergy with the rest of the corridor, with there not being one on this corridor. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
From your answer, I get the,
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
from your answer, I get the impression that you anticipate that most of the clientele that you would develop if this building comes into existence would be private. Do you anticipate, since it is in a commercial zone, that commercial entities would be using this as well? Or do you expect it all to be residential type people?
Majority would most likely be residential type. We have some bigger storage units where maybe someone who has a business and, needs to store some of their equipment, needs a bigger place. When you say 977 units, it sounds like a large number, but some of them are 5 by 5. They're smaller units. So if you look, I don't know if Planner Shorkey put the unit mix. I did send that to you on Friday. I don't know if it would have made.
Total number, I didn't.
It was an attachment.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I apologize.
That is not in here. I can
There's a
supply.
total, there's many different sizes. So the company we use is Frank Ralph out of New York. We go with the architect that understands this to a core. We want it to be successful. And this gentleman designs them all across Michigan. He's done most of the storage facilities across Michigan. We asked him to take our feasibility study, combine that with his knowledge and his experience to design a unit layout that would incorporate the number of units. But as you can see here, they're different sizes. There's multiple elevators in the building, and there's going to be doors where people can pull in, drive in, take their things in, and go up to their unit and keep it all, without impacting the area or being loud or things of that nature. There's no, as I said before, there's no outdoor storage. There's no non-climate controlled storage. So everything is going to be conditioned and well taken care of here.
Any other questions?
Did you look at any other locations in the township as a place to put this?
We did, but in terms of, this is the, high retail corridor, which is needed for this type of industry usually. And there's no raw land available in the area to develop this. You need the acreage. I mean, that is a large facility, and we have 8.5 acres on Grand River. Previously, this was going to be a car dealership. So there was going to be, a lot of, we bought this property from DP Fox, the DeVos family, who was planning a Nissan dealership here. That's who sold it to us, and they changed plans on it. And so this use is much less traffic intensive than a car dealership.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your answer.
Thank you.
All right, we'll close the public hearing on this issue. Any discussion from the commission?
I personally think this is fascinating from the standpoint of looking at affordable, attainable housing and aging in place and all the other things that we're striving to diversify our housing stock. And if this kind of demand for temporary storage is a spin-off of that, which makes sense to me, then I think we need to understand that as one of the spin-offs of a policy of encouraging a broader range of sizes of homes that people will stuff into them. Especially given that in Meridian Township, I believe we have a little under 20,000 households. And this is 1,000 units. So 1 in 20 households are predicted to need some storage space from 5 by 5 to 10 by 20 to 10 by 30. If that stuff is going to be stored, the closer it can be stored, the better from an environmental standpoint and a time standpoint and everything else. But it struck me. Maybe 1 in 20 people, their garage is full and they've already got a storage space rented someplace that's farther away. I don't know. But it does seem like an interesting potential spin-off of a policy of encouraging aging in place, for instance.
I think it coincides though with I think we have like 900 rental units being developed as well right now, which would require some form of storage because you probably don't have a garage if you're going into a rental unit.
I have no opposition to referring this to the township board to support. And as my contemporaries here have stated, this would be important for our aging community that is downsizing and trying to stay within the community and moving into some of our new facilities or apartments, condos that are being constructed. And I was trying to think through my mind, if I'm aging and if I were to move into something smaller, how would I store my belongings in between the moves? I think this is a needed item, and I think the location is unique and perfect for what they're proposing.
I originally expressed doubt because of the just overwhelming size of the structure compared to the housing unit that's going to go in near it. But after hearing the presentation and watching everybody else on the panel, I don't have that concern anymore. I agree that it is a necessary, or not, perhaps not necessary, but clearly a beneficial addition to the community, which will probably get very full use in a very short period of time after construction. So I guess any objections I had have been answered. Go ahead.
I think it's neat, as someone who does have a storage unit after my husband and I married, after both accumulating households full of things, I'm like, oh, this piques my interest, although we just back our car up to ours and sort of dump it in there. I'm not sure how a 3-story would work, but yeah, conceptually it's neat. My one, I guess, cause for hesitation is this appears to be such a specialized type of building on that site that if for some reason this business were not to be successful, I think we would end up with an eyesore that would be very difficult to remarket without demolishing and turning into something completely different, because I don't know how a building of this type and size would be able to be adaptable to something else. And that's the one thing that gives me a little bit of pause. And I do agree that there is very likely a market here. I don't believe, and sometimes we get copies of market studies. I don't think we did for this one, and I'm not sure that that's within our purview anyway to base a decision, but that would be one thing that would give me a little bit of pause and want to think about sort of understanding, is this something that has staying power? Because once it's there, it's going to be very difficult to turn this into something else.
And the township board will address that when they get to 25,000 square foot.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? No? All right, the chair is going to call for a straw vote then to give guidance to the staff. The motion is to approve the project as presented. Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? No? You have what you need, Mr. Sharkey?
Yeah, just to remind you, I will be bringing you 2 resolutions, one to approve the use and one to recommend approval of the size of the use, okay? But, yep, it sounds like we got everything I need for that.
Good. Thank you. All right, so Unfinished business. Okay.
Next meeting in 2 weeks. Perfect. Thank you. Or second Monday. Sure.
There appears to be no unfinished in business.
There is no unfinished new business.
So the next item we have then is the resolution of appreciation to Jerry Richards. I'm sorry. I apologize. I was just going to move the resolution. Quick on the draw.
But I would like to read the resolution for the record.
Go ahead.
At a regularly scheduled meeting of the Township Planning Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, held on the 22nd day of January 2024 at 6:30 p.m. local time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 members present, none absent. The following resolution was offered by Commissioner Scales and supported by
Second.
Commissioner Shrewsbury. Whereas Jerry Richards began serving the interests of Meridian Township in 1994, serving as the township manager for over 19 years. And whereas he continued his public service to the township starting in 2017, when he was appointed to the Planning Commission, and whereas during his 6-year tenure as Planning Commissioner, Mr. Richards, Commissioner Richards, has ably represented the interests of this Planning Commission and the citizens of Meridian Township, serving as the Planning Commissioner's secretary and also serving on the Building Board of Appeals and the Zoning Board of Appeals. And whereas Commissioner Richard worked tirelessly to advance and achieve the goals and objectives adopted by this commission, and the Township Board selflessly contributing valuable focus, perspective, insight, and energy to our most challenging efforts and subsequent accomplishments, bringing his background in construction to the decision-making process. And now therefore be it resolved by the Township Planning Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, wishes publicly to recognize, commend, and thank Jerry Richards for invaluable contributions to and impacts on the work of this commission and the quality of life in this community. This commission is grateful for your outstanding public service and wishes you well in your future pursuits. Be it further resolved that the Township Planning Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, hereby adopts this tribute of appreciation to Planning Commissioner Jerry Richards as presented.
There's a friendly amendment to your motion, and that is to correct a typo. At one point, where was that?
The last whereas
It's
It
Richards
should be
instead of
Mr. Richards. Yeah,
needs an S.
got that.
Cool.
Okay. And has there been a second to the motion?
I second it.
Seconded? And let's do this with a roll call. Any further discussion? Any other corrections or amendments? No. All right, then the chair calls for a vote. Commissioner Shrewsbury.
Yes.
Commissioner McConnell.
Yes.
Commissioner McCurtis.
Yes.
Commissioner Scales.
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. The motion is approved.
Okay. I'll bring a
With that-
nice,
With that typo correction.
bring a nice clean one to you.
I move the staff prepare a similar resolution for our vice chair who just left the commission.
I mean,
Second motion.
okay, if you want to.
I don't know if that needs a motion or just ask him to present it at the next meeting.
I'll just ask you.
Yes, yes, we will do that for the next meeting, yes.
All right. Very good. That letter was well-deserved. Let's go on to item 9B, election of officers.
Okay, I don't have a memo on this. I will note, you have 7 members right now. You do have to do your election of officers. You have a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary to elect. I remember something about last year. Isn't there something in your, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the planning commission have to do some kind of a waiver of a term limit to reelect you and Mr. Trezise to your positions?
I don't recall that.
You don't recall that?
Commissioner
Okay.
Trezise, I think to have Commissioner Trezise be the vice chair, he had to have, because he had been the chair and the vice chair previously, there was something that had to be done.
Okay.
There is a
Okay.
rule, and I believe, well, we shouldn't guess at a rule. We should get the rule.
Let me give you
Bylaws are
an option. It's 10 minutes after 8. Can we call a 5-minute recess?
Yes.
And let me go get your bylaws?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I'll be right back.
Thank you. call the meeting back to order.
Thank you, appreciate that. So here's what I was thinking. So I've got I can pass this around. It's 9 pages, so I didn't make a bunch of copies, and I can't access it because I don't have the drive available, but section 2.2, term of office shall commence from the date of selection for a period of 1 year or until a successor has been selected. Officers shall be eligible for re-election, but shall not serve more than 2 successive full terms in an office. And that's what I thought was you guys voted on to waive last year, but I didn't go back to the minutes and check that. Having said that, those are the rules. You do need a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary.
Okay. Well, is there anyone? I can serve one more term because I haven't served 2 full terms. I've basically served 1.5 terms because I took over from Scott Hendrickson when he went up to the trustee. But if anybody else interested in the position of president?
I was going to nominate Commissioner Shrewsbury to serve as chair. If she'll accept.
I would, but I don't want to take it from someone who is, if you want to keep on going.
That's not an issue. That's not an issue. If you want it, go
I would
ahead.
be honored. But again, I'm not willing to jump up there. So.
I had literally written your name on my sheet as well.
Oh. Yeah, like my parliamentary procedure.
Any other candidates for president? Then I'm going to withdraw my candidacy. And you get it. You don't need a vote. Let's talk about vice chair.
How about we promote our secretary to vice chair?
You want that?
Natural succession.
I actually had a question about my role as secretary. Has it been a year? Has it been that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It has.
What?
Time flies when you're
Yeah,
having
good
fun.
Wow. My gosh. Wow.
Well, you've been nominated for vice chair. Is
And
that-
clearly you did it without even batting an eye, so you did great at that job. Time for
Very,
promotion.
very, very difficult.
And you had the hard year when we were doing the master plan.
Were you right on?
I appreciate your nomination. If there is somebody else who's wanting that role, I would be, willing to entertain that.
Congratulations.
Okay, then.
And lastly, we
But
need
you
a
don't have to accept it, though. Like,
I know. I gotta sit here and think about that.
yeah.
position for secretary.
Yeah.
Anybody want that position?
I'd be interested.
The big thing is that at some point, the secretary is going to sign the master plan update.
Oh, there you go.
I got a nice signature.
That brings up an issue. The Jerry Richards letter, your form had my name on it.
You were the presiding
chair.
officer.
Oh, during the
Yeah.
post, so it's,
Yeah.
all right, so I'll still
No,
sign
you
it.
should.
Okay. All right.
So should I nominate that slate formally?
Yes, go ahead.
I so nominate. Commissioner Shrewsbury as chair, Commissioner Snyder as vice chair, and Commissioner Scales as secretary.
I'll second that. I don't think we need a roll call on this, do we? All in favor of the slate as proposed, say aye.
Here, here.
Aye.
No opposition. That's our new slate of officers.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Hopefully
Thank
you're
you
proud.
Thank you.
Let's see, this last,
Ever be gone. Actually, I think the secretary has to fill in that case.
If we're both gone.
All right, let's talk about the next item then. Item
Liaison
9C
assignments.
is the liaison assignments.
I thought I had, oh, I'm looking at it,
Yeah.
okay. Let me zoom, that's the agenda. Let me go all the way to the bottom here. Okay. You need to make assignments to the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Corridor Improvement Authority, the DDA, the Environmental Commission, the Economic Development Corporation, the Transportation Commission, and the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. And you can see the current liaisons right there and the meeting obligations below it for each body.
do we want to ask, does anyone want to continue what they were in?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that.
Yeah.
It's a fair question.
Yeah. I'm perfectly happy staying with the Downtown Development Authority.
I'm happy to stay with the Environmental Commission.
I'm happy with the, did somebody say they wanted the economic development? Did I hear you say that?
No, you did.
I'm
Go.
happy with the economic development.
We have two that we need to replace because they were held by Commissioner, or Vice Chair Trezise. Are there folks who are interested in those?
For me personally, mornings are gonna be, depending on how long these meetings are, they might be impossible, the 7:30 a.m., just with my work. So, ZBA could fit with my schedule potentially. What else is needed? Anything else?
ZBA and Brownfield are the two.
I don't
that-
believe Brownfield has met quite some time. I think that's very rare. that they-
I could do the Brownfield. I worked with Brownfield from the Department of Environmental Quality.
Sweet.
And then but the EDC is 7:30 a.m.
I think it's the
So
ZBA
ZBA.
that we need to,
Yeah, the ZBA.
How often does ZBA meet,
Once a month,
max?
yeah, I'm gonna say 1 to 2 times a year, their meeting gets canceled for lack of quorum, or, no, excuse me, lack of agenda items, but generally once a month.
You want the EDC?
Oh, I was just looking at the time, so it won't work anyway.
If you want it, you can have it, and I'll do the Brownfield. I don't need to.
I can't, I'm interested in EDC, but I can't do 7:30 a.m.
okay.
That's the only thing.
ZBA has a surprising amount of power. You will feel a surge of power surging.
That's because that's definitely what I'm after.
and I, being candid, I said this last time too, it is really difficult for me to commit to either one of these, just given my schedule, and mornings are hard, but because I'm on a hybrid work schedule, that quite often on Wednesdays I'm downtown, and to get back to Okemos by 6:30 is challenging.
I'll do the EDC and the Brownfield. I got you.
Okay, would anybody be interested in the ZBA and all that power that goes along with it?
I mean, I am interested in power,
There you go.
but I'm on the CIA currently, and I can't commit to both of those. And
Okay.
I also cannot go home and tell my wife I committed to more than one.
They are both
biggest
on the
fear.
third Wednesday of the
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, I know,
You
so
are
I couldn't do
correct.
both. So
Yeah.
I would be happy to I'm happy to stay on the CIA because we just approved the TIF, and there should be some really interesting things happening with that this year. I'm also happy to be on the ZBA if somebody wants the CIA instead. But it doesn't, I'm fine either way.
Question for you, is the board likely to give us appointments for our vacancies anytime soon, or is that something you think will take a while? Because it might be that we have somebody fill
It's-
in and then,
No, go do this. It's gonna be a
Okay.
minute.
okay,
I
I
haven't-
think somebody's coming, because Friday we were at Culver's celebrating the 20th anniversary, and there was some discussion about a new person.
Okay.
And I made mention that we had not one, but 2 vacancies on our board, and I was told, there's only 1 vacancy in my.
that's a lot to throw somebody new into, though, is to ask them to be on this and the ZBA, because
Yeah.
it is a pretty important board.
The involvement of, the role is just as liaison to report back, right? Or do you actually?
ZBA
have
actually
voting?
votes,
That's who you serve.
yeah.
Oh, you serve.
It's a little different than, that's a
Okay.
formal appointment.
I don't know if I can
Would you
manage
be
all that right
interested, or
now.
is
You
your-
just can't stretch that far anymore.
Okay,
Can I make a
please, yes.
suggestion?
We're all waiting.
I'm not trying to play favorites. Don't misread me when I say this, but Commissioner McCurtis, you're on the Transportation Commission. I'll be blunt with you. They're not meeting anytime soon. They don't have enough members for a quorum.
Oh, really?
That's why you haven't heard from me.
I was wondering.
Okay. I would suggest,
Here's where you take
you
one
might be
step
interested.
backwards.
If you want to be involved, you might be interested in ZBA. And we could certainly help you with that.
Yeah, when do they meet though?
Third Wednesday of every month, 6:30.
That'd be a great.
I just throw that out
3
there.
PM, yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Great
That's
opportunity.
not a problem. I could do that.
Okay.
And I'd be happy to keep an eye on that transportation
I knew
commission.
you
They never
would.
meet.
You're always professional.
Oh, you know, you attend them all anyway. I'll let you know, I'll keep you in the Transportation Commission spot, you know, and
Oh,
if
sorry.
something,
No,
you know,
it's still
if that revives, I'll let you know, but in the meantime,
No, I
Transportation Commission's advisory, ZBA makes decisions.
yeah, I genuinely enjoy the transportation commission.
I'm not trying to take it away off.
No, I bet.
Because you're there, so it's not a big deal. That's why I didn't raise my hand, because I didn't realize that they were.
We can take turns handling the transportation.
I might even be able to go those
I'll
every
take the
now and
next
then.
So is there anything left then?
I think that takes care of it.
Do we need to vote on these, or that's just let you
I
know?
think we'd like a vote accepting the
Okay.
liaison, list of liaisons as
ZBA
is.
is Commissioner McCurtis.
What I have, I'll just go down the list.
Please.
ZBA is Commissioner McCurtis, Corridor Improvement Authorities, Commissioner Brooks, Downtown Development Authorities, Commissioner Bloomer, Environmental Commission is Commissioner McConnell, Economic Development Corporation is Commissioner Scales, Transportation Commission is Commissioner McCurtis, and Brownfield Redevelopment Authority is Commissioner Scales. Sound right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Do you still, okay, I was gonna ask you, or do you still send out the packets or whatever for the?
you'll be hearing from Keith Chapman. He staffs the ZBA.
Okay, thank you.
I'm trying to figure out the best way to handle this. The chair will make a motion to approve the list as just read by staff.
Okay.
Second,
I don't think we need a roll call for this. All in favor of the list as read by staff, say aye. Aye. It's approved.
Okay.
All right. Liaison
I was
report.
copying something
Well,
off of
Township-
that.
I'm sorry, what?
He moved that, I was copying.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was here. There you go.
Next item on the agenda is a township board update.
I have nothing for you.
All right. Liaison reports? Are there any? No liaison reports?
Just the Economic Development Corporation reviewed their goal accomplishments and set their new goals. And it's a long list.
All right then. Project report?
I didn't get in the packet. I did just print a hard copy for you. You have an updated project report in front of you. Not as much change as I thought there was gonna be, and not as much as there's gonna be in the next couple months.
All right then. We are on public remarks. Please remember to state your name and residence.
Josh Nahum, 1517 River Terrace.
Can you spell your last name?
Oh, yeah, N as in Nancy, A-H-U, M as in Mary.
N-A-H-M?
U-M,
U-M.
yeah, Nahum.
No, got it, Josh.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've been coming to these meetings for a few months now. I don't want you to think I'm just like a creepy person sitting in the corner. I'm really interested in the work that you guys are doing, and I'm applying to be on a couple different boards, waiting for the supervisor to make those appointments. So hopefully the Transportation Committee will actually be functional, because I'd love to be on that as well. But yeah, I just wanted to say, I've been really appreciating the work that you guys are putting into all of these discussions and looking at all these special use permits. And, I'm sitting there like hoping somebody will ask a particular question. You guys almost always do. And so I just want to say, I really appreciate the work that you guys are doing and the effort that you're putting into making, reasoned and good decisions for our community. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's nice.
The record should reflect that was the only member of the public present. Commissioner comments? Go ahead.
I'm really hoping that we can do, so this is my second year here, and I have really enjoyed being on this and working with you all on just getting to hear the different issues with the township, and I'm looking forward to having the conversation about what we're hoping to accomplish this year and thinking through some of those issues. And one of the ones that I'm going to bring up that I've already said, but I'm going to bring up, and I just want to say it now, is the parking mandates that are required. And maybe there's some other issues that we could be thinking about over the next week or whatever, a couple weeks, and thinking about things that we may want to achieve as a commission that would be building on the master plan work that we did this past year. So just wanted to give that comment.
I know I mentioned it a little bit briefly earlier, but I'd like to say thank you to January and Corey Koala for opening their first of 3 now, Culvers in Meridian Township, 20 years ago, January 19th, 2004. And wish you many, many more successful years. Thank you for being an activist within our community and supporting community activities, providing delicious food, excellent customer service, and supporting the township the way you do. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to add to that, supporting Hazlet Public Schools the way that they do. They have been incredibly generous sponsors of athletics, education. It's just really great.
Yeah, most recently, I think they were doing Hazlet robotics. if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
Today,
Wow.
yes.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I just want to say thank you to everybody here. I've been on the committee now just a little bit more than 2 years. And I've actually enjoyed, I'm pretty sure I can say honestly, I've enjoyed every meeting that I've attended. Can't remember the last time I was with a group of people like this when I didn't pick a fight with somebody. So,
Just wait.
just wait. No, I enjoy coming here. I enjoy the work that we do, and I especially enjoy working with you people. It's a good group. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you for your service and leadership
Yes.
on the board. I think you have, I didn't realize that you had just started when you got dumped into the chair role, and you have led us well. And I agree with you that this is a group that it's clear we don't always have the same opinion on things. We agree or we disagree occasionally, but I think we do it professionally and respectfully. And I really appreciate that, especially in the broader political climate where that's not always the case. That this is, I think, a good model for how these kinds of things should run. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Look forward to continuing to work with everyone. Thanks everyone for your trust in me or your letting me volunteer. I don't know. Look forward to another successful year.
Any other comments? All right, then. Does anybody object to an adjournment?
Nope.
Thank you very much. See you all in a month.
All right.